Why would you want to do something that feels like hard work when there is another way in the moment to feel better to you? And we want to bring you to awareness that the messages are not always going to come in this auditory way of a specific thought that you're hearing and seeing or writing it even down. It can come in the form of a number. It can come in the form of a picture. It can come in the form of any kind of association that you're giving your association to.
With me today is Armand and Kosta. Thanks for coming on the show, guys. I appreciate you being here today.
We love being here. Thank you for
Thank
inviting
you
us.
for including us. Yes.
It's the first time I've had two people on the interview at the same time, so I'm interested to see where we go today. And to get things started, could you just give us a little bit of background about what your life was like up until you first connected with WEOLA, and then we'll talk more about that to fill people in on how that works for you.
Well, since we met, and it's been about 10 years ago, we've been both very very drawn to like deep conversations. And then prior to that, the receiving of the channel, Armand was actually on a big, when we met, he was on a big quest about self-development, and he was reading a lot of different books until one day he stumbled upon a book of Abraham Hicks, and that was kind of a game changer for us because we've spent the next few years intimately between two of us just developing that, and quite honestly bringing it to all of our friends. And then once we connected with the Abraham Hicks community and started traveling to workshops and especially to cruises, things started moving rather quickly in our own development until at one of the cruises, which was right, like literally the cruise ended a few days before the whole world stopped during the pandemic. I received a different stream of thoughts, and I could decipher it in my native language. That's what was different about it, because before that I've been thinking in English for like 15 years prior, and that's how it all started. So I would say it's I don't know, our insatiable desire to know more of who we are, and then Armand can tell you more about how we've summoned WEOLA. But I don't know, did I miss anything?
No, generally speaking, it's that's kind of like how it unfolded. From my perspective, since I've discovered the teachings of Abraham, I was very playful with all of it, you know. And as Costa said, we actually start to apply those teachings right away and embodying them and then sharing it with our friends until we went to the cruise. And then we just added that Abraham Hicks community to our existed, you know, community that weren't part of that, but they always heard that here and there. You know, we always would kind of like, without insisting much, you know, just share because people were curious.
Well, without insisting much, but then also gifting them the books all the time.
I mean, it
was a subtle.
It was very subtle and polite, you know, because of course, when you're so excited about this and you're like, holy moly, this is really works, you know, and it resonates with you so much, then you want to share it with the entire world, right? So we even that first year we did our taxes and we spent $2,000 on Abraham Hicks books.
And we're just giving them
to everyone in the street, you know, homeless people. Like that's
this
how
can change your life, you know. Yeah. We were like,
but at the same time, we actually never went to a workshop, a gathering, you know. At that point, I would say for about 3 years, we were just, you know, playing with that and applying it ourselves, and then until one day, Kosta came home and said, "I have a surprise for you," and it was cruise, the first cruise we joined on the Mediterranean. It was going from Barcelona. I'm from Barcelona, Spain. So it was a perfect kind of like beginning and end of the cruise where we also could see our friends in Barcelona and our friends. So, and why I'm saying I was playing with that, because even within our Abraham Hicks community, a lot of people were nicknaming Kosta as Jesus, quote unquote, because he was always so steady, so aligned, like, um, I don't know, so confident within the application of the teachings, like contrast for him, as speaking Abraham language. Uh, for
Well,
him was just a play, like, oh, let's see what comes from here, So I was joking with him with no end back of really summoning literally this. I was like, okay, you're so steady, you're Jesus. When are you going to channel? So I would kept saying that, but in a very playful and light way. It was like our inner joke, like, and also supported by all the friends that we had. And until one day I was, so on that cruise, as he said, it was kind of like in the beginning of the pandemic, and we came on the midst of lockdown. Like New York, we used to live in New York at the time. It was already closed, and we had already an apartment in Miami Beach, where we currently live. And I was passing through our bedroom, and I hear him speaking in his native language in Serbia, and it was weird because I never hear him speaking by himself. And okay, I said, okay. So I poured a glass of champagne and I went to our beautiful patio. And then he opens the door and he's like, oh my God, I think I just channeled. Let's listen what came through. And from that day, it was just one session after another. We would just play with that for weeks and weeks. And then we're like friends, Would you like
this
to?
is happening. Yeah.
This is happening. Would you like to actually join kind of like a session,
Come
like a
on over.
coming
Yeah. Yeah.
over? 5 people joined the first one, and then the rest of history. That year, we probably did, I don't want to lie, but at least 100 live streams, because what else you're going to do? We expanded the online community a lot. And then that 3 month after he started channeling, we did the first retreat in Miami, because Miami was kind of like very flexible with all that restrictions, COVID restrictions. And guess what? People start to come, because people wanted to travel and wanted any excuse to be in this frequency, of us, and of what we were offering vibrationally. And I would say that, our joint frequency summoned this. None of us were consciously dreaming about channeling, but
Mhm. Yeah.
that's it.
I wanted to say something there too. I'm just now remembering this is really an awesome part of the story. So when we start chatting with people before we found people in Abraham community, Armand would be so excited to talk to them in Abraham Hicks language. And then at certain point, he would just hit the roadblock, because as you're using the language, you're using it from the very specific frequency, right? So sometimes people would just have like the blank slate. So he would go on it, and then he would be like, okay, now you now you take over, and you.
Explain it the way they actually can
So,
understand.
so from the get go, I've been in a way like I've been asked by Armand or summoned to be a bridge, in between the, just use the different language, and how would you explain this to them? That was pretty much what he would come up with. And then on the other hand, I was interested. I used to be a ballroom dance professional for over 25 years, and I was looking to, at one point I realized why I love it so much is because people get to feel uplifted. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're not coming just here to learn the dance moves. They actually come here to feel good because they like to be in my vibe. But then also
Hmm.
I've noticed in myself that having that skill that I'm teaching him in between, it was also like a little boundary between how much more they can go into development, self-development. Because also now I started like craving more of that, because more you get into it, more you're excited about it. So I was looking to get into like the world of life coaching. That was the thing that I knew as a modality. And then I was like, well, I don't really feel like using Abraham Hicks terminology. First, because he's trained me already to use some of my stuff. And second of all, because I had so much respect for the work of Esther Hicks. And so unknowingly, what I was looking for was my unique, specific vocabulary for life coaching purposes, which now when I talk to you, I don't think I've ever seen it this way. It was actually me stepping into the full-on authentic connection, and it could not have come any other way but in the way that did, which was, as Armand said, complete surprise, because this was always a joke, and I never thought of myself as wanting to do what someone like Esther is doing.
And also that's why actually the first channeling came in Serbian, because he was receiving, as he said, I'm just assuming whatever he told me, he already was receiving, but he was like, oh, this is different, but he wouldn't make much of it. And then, but once it came in Serbian, and he doesn't really think in Serbian much because he's been living like 13 years in US, so everything is in English. And then oh, this is like really different. Now let me pay attention to this, let me press play, ask a question, and then see what flows. And that's how we started.
Well, yeah, there was a funny thing that when I requested about like, why is this coming in Serbian? It's like, well, you wanted to have a unique language, and it's going to come from your native tongue, and there is not going to be a doubt for you that you are merging things around. There's not going to be a doubt for you that this is your unique hookup, and that you're not like just pretending to be doing this stuff. It was just a phenomenal, fun way of playing. And now, 4 years after, I'm doing it both. I'm doing it in Serbian, in English. Obviously, that's how it all blew up for us. But now I'm actually doing it equally in both languages, and it feels really good.
That was really a wake up, wasn't it? It was kind of like almost like Abraham or WEOLA was kind of testing with you and getting you used to the idea, and then you needed some sort of confirmation, and then having it coming through in Serbian was that confirmation, I guess.
Yeah. And on that cruise, on that Caribbean cruise, before Kosta started channeling, actually, Kosta, on one of his hot seats in conversation with Abraham told, they told him, you either going to continue asking and receiving through this platform, or you go and start to receiving through your own physical mechanism.
Yeah, that was a fun nudge right before, because when I realized that, why am I thinking in Serbian? I was like, this is a different thing. And then I realized it's always been there regardless of a language. We all obviously have access at all times. And then I sorted it all out like that. But when I looked back 9 months prior to that on another cruise, I also had that nudge in Serbian, but I was like, why am I thinking in Serbian? I completely disregarded it. And then next time it came like, kind of the vibe of the ending of that hot seat was, this was so satisfying. I was in a hot seat for like 30 minutes with them. They kept dragging out of me the questions because I was summoning so much. It was such a wonderful exchange. And then pretty much the vibe of that ending was like, pay attention, because you're ready to receive directly in a format that can be helpful to others. And then when the Serbian came again, it was kind of like, bim, connecting the dots,
How did you say it?
Yeah, like,
can we do it together?
Yeah.
Bim.
Yeah, welcome to our world, Rod. Oh gosh.
I'm a huge fan of Abraham. I think it was Conversations with God. So it was Neil Donaldson.
Walsh.
Neil
his
Walsh.
name is. So that was like the first book that really introduced me to the idea of, well, that was essentially a channeled text, and then somehow from there it became then Esther channeling Abraham Hicks, and like you guys, I consumed all the books there was, and I don't know how many thousand, hundreds of videos, surely hundreds of YouTube videos going, because people have done so much retelling of those hot seats and other things, and it's all over Spotify. It's such great material. Where was I going with that? Yeah, so I was curious about how you discern between your own thoughts and channel messages. And for you, it was clear because it was in Serbian. But was there something else about the essence of the message? Like, did it feel different to you as well? Like either then or when you look back over the past?
Yes, well, the differentiation was like, pay attention, this is a different stream, and it was a very specific message, like here, now, present. This is something that you wanted for the longest time. Very direct conversation. um,
Mm.
and um, and then I've just realized that guidance, wider perspective guidance, has always been there, and that I've been and it was funny how I started realizing that was when I started opening myself up back home to people in Serbia. People would say, well, we don't know what you're talking about when it comes to channeling, but it makes total sense because you used to do this all of your life. Like, you used to sit and say, well, you can look at it from this perspective and that perspective. So then I started realizing that it's been coming in a more like integrated ways, switching of the perspectives, and the guidance has always been there for myself, but also like for a lot of my friends growing up, and people that I was interacting with.
Yeah.
So that was
Mm.
like a phenomenal way to. I just did not make any of it, and so I'm sure, not sure, I'm 100% certain this is the case with all of us. With you know, with a little bit of awareness and practice and paying attention, we can sense when those nudges are coming in from your specific focused thought and when it's received. And so I guess my interest in this life is to for that to be also broadcasted for others too. And so, because I've been really just even through the world of ballroom dancing, I've been a teacher in that traditional way since I was like 14, 15 years old. So it's
Yeah.
always been a satisfying thing for me. I remember being 11 and leaving my first to fourth grade teacher, and I could not leave it. I would go to assist her into the other shift because I just loved everything about teaching and about education and about just being of service to people in any way I can. Yeah.
And from my perspective, because you just with your question reminded me this. So, okay, actually, in the beginning, for me, it was weird.
Oh
Like
yes.
I had my own process of integrating of what was happening, because yes, we would
And
go.
he would make it very clear that it's weird
Oh,
to me and to everybody we interacted every single time.
that was weird. Okay,
I was
so
like, you wanted this. He's like, but I was joking. I was like, well, off you go.
so
Too late. Cat's out
one
of the bag.
yeah,
Yeah.
one thing is going to Abraham workshops and just basking in the frequency. I resonate with the message, but I never really put lots of attention or thoughts into, oh, how does Esther channels, or is it Esther on the stage or not? Or I was just
Yeah,
I just loved it.
we never met her personally either. So yeah, you just associate it as a one thing.
We did met her personally, meaning we are not friends, or we don't have a personal relationship, quote unquote.
Mhm.
But at that time, you did not know her.
Oh no,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
after, yeah. Anyways, so when he started channeling, mind you, in the beginning he was like this. I was like, what the fork? I mean, that's weird. Okay, and do I have to ask questions? I was like this, like asking questions. That was very weird. Then it became a little bit, a little bit more comfortable, and then he started to sit with his eyes closed, and was like, okay, this is a little bit more comfortable to me. But then the gesticulation started. I was like, who is this person? This is my husband, but this isn't very weird.
He's usually not doing YMCA, like he's usually
Yeah.
The thing is that
more grounded than that.
now I'm aware it's like everything is like amplified, so like the voice amplifies, the bank of lingo in English amplifies, meaning words are coming that he doesn't usually talks, when he's just consciously focused, so to speak, and I was like, that's weird. And then when he opened his eyes, I was blown away, because I mean, I know my husband. If you would not know him and you just listen to WEOLA, you was like, oh, okay, so such a natural guy. Okay, he's just maybe a little bit gesticulating and talking, but it's super natural, and I'm so happy, you know, without judgment of how other people
Oh, you're
float.
right. That was really not a judgment at all. Yeah.
But
He's
I'm
like,
just so
no judgment with other people, but I'm happy that my husband looks
Oh my
pretty
God.
natural.
Yeah.
No, but
gosh.
He looks like a normal channeler now, not one of those
I'm like,
weird
I
ones.
love you, channelers. I love you all. No judgment. But anyways, my preference, I guess I was also summoning my preference, you know,
Yeah.
because but still, I would say maybe for the first year I couldn't look him at the eyes when he was channeling, because I could see he was like on drug, like high on drugs. Like the pupils are
Mm.
this unwavering kind of like straight
Yeah, just
look at
encourage
you.
all of the people that are not familiar with this, that this is actually something that's going to be useful, by telling them
Guys,
that I look like I'm on drugs.
just pay attention to
This is so funny he's saying
the
that, because
reason.
I've actually never tried anything in my life. I'm so not into any of that.
Oh,
But anyway.
I also don't use drugs, but I'm the one that, you know, likes a ciggy and a glass of wine, and he's the one that buys it to me.
Oh my gosh.
He doesn't do any of that.
Oh my gosh, Rod, we can entertain you here for like hours.
You could, if it's okay with you guys, if we could channel WEOLA, because I could
Whatever
ask some
you-
further questions.
Absolutely. Okay.
So before we get into
Mhm.
channeling WEOLA, could you let us know how you came up, how WEOLA, the name WEOLA came through? I know it's an acronym.
Yeah.
And how what is the channeling process like for you? Because I know it's different for all channels.
So when we started receiving, we call it WEOLA flow. We did not go into defining any specific name, because my understanding, even when we're part of Abraham Hicks workshops, is that everyone has direct hookup. Everyone is already communicating, even if you don't know. And so I did not have any necessity to name it as the entity, so to speak, right? Because it was just not making any sense to go with it at that moment. And then we did the first few workshops, and people started saying, hi, Kosta. They're like, how do we name you? People already started asking. And then I started requesting about it. And the flow that came about it was kind of, they were laughing, because they're like, this is so funny that you're falling for this whole aspect of peer pressure, so to speak. Name it, name it, name it. But we understand that that from the perspective, because there needs to be a differentiation, right? When I'm talking to Kosta and when I'm talking to the channel version of Kosta, right? Or to the energy that's coming through Kosta. And so then, as I was coming out of that specific part of the flow, they were talking about something else. And then they said, something, we all are one. And then they said, and that might be the best way to describe us. We all are one. And then I was coming out of that session, and it was kind of like a mantra whispering, we all are one, we all are one, we all are one, we all are one. And then I said to Armand, I'm like, I think I'm excited to have something so people can make differentiation. And I think we all are one. Why don't we just call it WEOLA and make an acronym out of that, so people have the opportunity to have the difference between the two. And then we started getting little confirmations, because even before that moment, we all was talking about, you can have a spiking experiences where you're making a lot of like, you can bring a lot of resistance and then drop it, like you make a spike, right? Or you can have a very comfortable wave of your experience, climb a little bit into resistance and then drop it, and climb and drop it. And then we were passing by this one hotel that we had our pool party after our wedding. And I mean, I've been speaking Spanish since I was 13, and this is the first word, it's hola, right? It means hello. But the name was saying OLA, and Armand is like, because that's his first language, he's like, but that's not the same Ola. Ola is with H, but when it says OLA, that actually means wave. And then when he said it, we just looked at each other. We're like, oh my gosh, how perfect this is, because we all are one would literally mean we all are one wave. So we're all one movement and one wave. So anyway, that was just kind of like wonderful confirmations of you know, how we appropriately nicknamed the flow that comes in.
Is there any particular process that you go through to set yourself up for the
Yeah,
channeling?
just a couple of simple breaths, just to take and quiet my mind for a second, and all of my judgments, opinions, beliefs, thoughts are gonna go into the background, and then you can have a conversation about anything that matters to you right now. And yeah, it's going to be awesome, because it's always awesome. It's actually always awesome for me, because I get a little vacation from my own thought process. So everybody's always asking me, oh my gosh, is this like taxing on you? Well, yes, I need to be prepared in a specific way to make it easy for myself, to be lighter, and to but I, with so much practice, I can tune in and out. And if I'm smoother in that, then my experience is smoother. But the actual part of channeling is really something that never um, um, takes energy away. It actually adds a lot. It's just how you get into it
Mhm.
and how you get out of it. So,
Right.
so yeah. So it's always a wonderful experience. So I'll take a couple of breaths and off we go. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Here now, present in this moment, in every moment at all times. Your wider perspective, that which is you from a different angle. We've tried to make it even more smooth and normal for Armand than usual for this interview. And so,
Okay.
whatever's on your mind, go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you for being part of this conversation. I really enjoy this. So I've come to the point where I ask questions that are a little more personal and also realize that they apply to everybody anyway. So I'm going to ask away. And
We want
it's
to say
related to,
that is the best way to approach your living too. So if you ever want to be of service to others, the best way is to approach it from your unique perspective. And then, because when you're hooked up from your unique perspective, from your unique interests, and we know it's sometimes a little bit tricky when you want to go and include others, but what we're saying is they will have the benefit of your interest. And everyone who has the curiosity about the similar or same interest that you have will have the benefit of it. And even those who are not and watching it, it might not even like what they're hearing, they're going to have the benefit. There is always a benefit in interaction. And so what you're saying is, we know we cut you off immediately, but what we're saying is your interest matters so much, because your point of experience is so unique and it cannot be repeated ever, that bouncing off of that is really what the communication is about and what you're here for to experience, a reflection of you in others from a different angle.
so what I'm interested in, or what I have been interested in for a while now, is improving my connection with source and being able to hear and receive messages that I need to hear. So I'm always curious about how I can facilitate that. So I'm not a terribly good meditator. I find that if I wake up in the middle of the night, it's easy for me to meditate, but it feels like I'm pressuring myself to do it. And I've heard someone mention that just sitting with a pen on a piece of paper is actually quite effective. So I've been trying that, but I very, very quickly get, I have RSI, and if there's one thing that's going to upset that, it's writing with a pen. So, but I'm, willing to persevere with anything. And I'm just wondering what your suggestions would be for anyone to help improve their connection with source and greater consciousness.
First thing is to be aware that you already have it. In other words, it is not something that you do not have and now you're building to have. It's something that's given, and then you are looking based off of your own interest and curiosity how much of it you want to experience. So it's not something, it's not that you're plugging yourself into the non-physical perspective. You are non-physical perspective embodied, and then based off of what's going on in the specificity of your life is where you want to pull sometimes a little wide and sometimes quite a lot wide in order to see things from a different angle to kind of see your next steps. This is what's really happening when you say to receive a message, to receive the guidance. This is what's happening. You allow yourself to go into a little bit of a higher frequency in the terms of 3D world, a little bit higher of frequency or a little bit more lighthearted, and you pull it, you zoom out into the wider perspective, because that's what non-physical is for you. Wider you get, lighter it is, and wider the perspective or more zoomed out perspective is. But we want to remind you that you're here to experience that wideness in that specific angle that you're having. So it's not something that you want to hook up to and then stay there. You want to dance between the perspectives based off of what you're experiencing in the moment. And so any of the tools that work for you, and we want to specify this, that work for you in the moment. Not all of the tools are always going to work for you forevermore. And so Kosta was just recently, the Serbian audience is very interested about his journey of becoming who he is right now and what he's doing. And he's had this interaction with wonderful team of Abraham Hicks. And in that interaction, he was saying how he's connecting to appreciation. He doesn't really meditate. And he was really lighthearted and bubbly. It was like, wow, this is an awesome place to be in. And he's finding himself right now in a similar place. But right after that phase, there was a time where he could not stop meditating. He loved it so much. He enjoyed pulling up wide. He really enjoyed it so much so. And then at some point, he started feeling responsibility for what he's doing. Am I going to be able to channel if I don't do it? Am I going to be able to do this? And how is this going to look like? In other words, when you use the tool that works, but then you make it something that you have to do, you're introducing the resistance. And so you're introducing the resistance, and that feeling of have to do or I must do this to do that, you're putting the survival into something that's very lighthearted. And so we say, leave survival for what it is. And that's very simple, your roof over your head and your food and kind of stuff. And then find whatever rings your bells. Today, he found this awesome new song on YouTube, and usually he likes to hear more meditative talks or some kind of really uplifted chatters that he enjoys while he's doing his stretching routine. And today he just put this song on repeat, and it was the most wonderful thing ever. In other words, it raised his vibration with such ease. And so you can be one of those people who will really enjoy one thing for the rest of your physical iteration. And you may be one of those who like to switch it up. And we say, you just pay attention in the moment what feels better. Because if you have this feeling of I have to, I'm slaving away to, well, that's why you do not want to do it. Why would you want to do something that feels like hard work when there is another way in the moment to feel better to you? And we want to bring you to awareness that the messages are not always going to come in this auditory way of a specific thought that you're hearing and seeing or writing it even down. It can come in the form of a number. It can come in the form of a picture. It can come in the form of any kind of association that you're giving your association to. Kosta and Armand have a wonderful friend who they turn to sometimes to have a wonderful conversation or to tune up when they feel like they want a little energetic boost. And they recognize some of the things that they made association about her. Kosta was just at another Abraham Hicks workshop, and he saw a person sitting in front of him and had the shirts full of hummingbirds. And that's one of the associations. He immediately thought of that person, connected, and received some wonderful downloads. And so you can have these insights come to you in any specific way. All you want to do is open yourself up for more perception. And so we would say paying attention, being aware, and then asking. Be very specific. Your wider perspective is there to give you anything and everything you're looking more clarity on by simply asking and then paying attention.
That's very useful. I have a question about, because we're all living in big cities and technology is becoming more prevalent in our lives, and AI. And how important is it that we maintain a connection with the natural world and be in nature?
Well, it is something that it's in the essence and foundation. And in the essence of your question, we're going to bring it back to the center and balance too. It's not either or. You're evolving. And so everyone that you're observing is also evolving at a different time, at a different pace, and in a different way. And everyone's experience is perfect. So there is no this one formula to say, here is a cookie cutter, 20% of the trees, 10% of the beach, and then 50% of the big city and metro and cars and Wi-Fi. In other words, you know what feels good to you in the moment. We will always bring you into the moment. We'll always bring you into the balance. And we'll always bring you to allow yourself to be more flexible in the moment based off what you're looking for. And so there are certain energies in the form of human bodies that are none of this affects them. In other words, they do not even ever have to be in the nature and they will feel that they're fully connected. And there are some who are more sensitive and they will want to do it that way. And so it's just about you giving yourself permission to do what you at that moment are looking for to bring yourself to balance if you're not. And then if you are, you're usually excited to not care for a moment and for a moment forget and then really pay attention when you do, because you're not here always to remember every single thing about everything that you are fully embodied. Because if you were to always know what to do at every single moment and just do it and do it and do it and do it, you would stick around here with us non-physical guys. You're there to experience, but you always have an opportunity to shift. And so what really strongly comes for you in these first few questions of everyone who is summoning it through you, through your audience, is the awareness of perception and just being present in the moment and allowing yourself to trust that what you ask for and it's received, you follow through. And how do you know? You know by the way it feels. Giving yourself permission to do what feels good.
Hmm. Yeah, I think this is important. Just speaking from my perspective, is I tend to get into a space of, well, I've got to plan things out and kind of work out where things are going to go, and become less in just allowing what's occurring or sort of being in that moment.
We'll offer you an analogy that
Which
will
is,
help you a lot with
yeah.
this. And that analogy is about schedule and flow. In other words, you can look at the flow as what we just described. Pay attention, be in the moment, and go for it. And that you can really interpret as your wider perspective. That's what's available in the moment at the right time. But also, you're so focused and you have the time space continuum that you're operating with. So, your schedule is also important too. So, the balance between the two is what's going to give you the most satisfying thing, because your analytical aspect, your intellectual part of you will always want to know what's coming next in order to allow you to bring that expansion into the physical 3D reality. But if it's just that, then you feel overwhelmed. But if you're not having enough of that direction in the form of a schedule, you then feel like you don't want to do anything. I mean, Kosta at some point said to Armand, well, why do we need to do this and we need to do that? He was so enjoying playing around here and being in this wonderful flow and meditative state. And Armand said, do not die. Armand said, stay focused. I'm excited to spend more time here. And then Kosta was asking himself, well, is this all that I want to do? And then realized, well, no, there's so much more to do. It's natural sometimes to get into this place of wider perspective is the perspective, and we say it is at all times at your disposal, but you're here for your specific experience. So we'll always bring your awareness from the first words coming through Kosta in this format. It's always been, it is, and always will be about integrated, balanced, conscious, and as of recent, we've been communicating quite a lot of authentic way of living.
Okay, so authentic living. So I had an incident recently. It was about a week ago. Generally, my health is really good, and it wasn't during a workout. It was while I was leaning over fixing one of my pot plants, and I really hurt my lower back to the point where I could not. It was very difficult to move from a horizontal position to stand up, and it's a lot better now. And I always feel like I created that for whatever reason. I have no visibility as to why I would cause myself that sort of injury with such a simple thing. I don't have
So
any
we would
insights into
want
how
to
that
bring
occurred.
awareness to the question why. The question why is one of the most useful questions when turned in a direction of your desire. But when it's pointed in a direction of a lack of a desire, it will always feel to you like digging. And so
Mm.
you can ask that question, and we are happy to play with you if you want to play that way. But there is not really much value of you asking why did this happen. In other words, why did I do this to myself? You can already sense how that feels like. You can bring out of the awareness of I'll be more aware in what I was doing. So yes, you get that kind of thing of be more aware in the most general sense, or pay attention. Costa will sometimes say, pay attention. Sometimes you're rushing. Sometimes you're so high on life. Sometimes you're rushing so much that you put your hand in your bag and forget that you have a razor over there that you put, and then you cut yourself up. Just pay attention. Just pay attention. So we're not saying forget about it and then keep doing the same thing over and over again. What we're saying is get the awareness out of it and then shift to this is what's happening. What is it that I want? And when you ask, what is it that I want? Then ask why. The why is like adding the fuel to the fire, and you can add the fuel to the fire in the direction of unwanted, or you can add the fuel to the fire in the direction of wanted. And so when you are in that situation of any kind of contrast that you're experiencing, you allow yourself to, that's not the time to ask why. The why is going to show itself up to you when you get into the place of harmony, which means use any tool to get and balance yourself out of that particular injury, and it will come. It will come. There was something for you to focus about, but specifics of it will unfold once you're in a place of harmony again. Because if you're not in harmony and you're digging, here comes more of it, here comes more of it, here comes more of it, adding fuel to the fire in that direction. And when you just let it be and find a way to balance yourself out and get into that specific place of harmony, well, then here comes the clarity. Of course, it makes sense that that happened then because that focus may need to do this and to do that and to do this and to do that. And so, sooner you allow yourself to get to harmony, to alignment, you will get the answer from that. But it always happens in a retrospect like that. And we know that friends sometimes would like to have it then and there. So the useful way to go about it is this happened. I cannot really change what happened right now. I know there is some value to this because I know there is always a value to every contrast, to every resistance, to every question. But it's not time now to dig into details of why. You can sense how the specific way that will get you to dig is really relaxing and allowing you to move into how can I feel better right now? And then when you do feel better, you will get that detail where we cannot make you more certain of anything else but about that. Whereas it is your choice and you have a free will to dig if you want to, but we're just reminding you that you don't have to and that the clarity will follow.
Okay. I have a question about our pre-planning of our life before we come to planet Earth. And some people say we kind of like have these sort of waypoints that we plan in our lives and that don't impede our free will. And others think that we don't have so much free will because we have these sort of predetermined mile markers in our life, and others think it's just open slather. We can just do whatever we feel like doing. So could you speak to that?
We like to talk about this in a form of your tendencies. In other words, there is certain momentum in the specificity of you, and you can see the tendencies developing even in a form of your evolution, from very simple cells that turned into something so beautiful, complex, mesmerizing, such as human body. And so if you pay attention from that perspective, you will have certain tendencies. And we know sometimes there is this war on unconscious, and everyone wants to make everything conscious at all times. And we say, if you were to be conscious of everything at all times, you would not be physically focused. And so we want to bring to your awareness something that you will get even in this instance as we speak. Even if you look at your body, it has so many unconscious processes, and you would not want to have it any other way. In other words, you would not want to have to be in charge of your bloodstream. You would not want to have to be in charge of how you specifically breathe, even though you can choose to consciously breathe if you want to. You can make any of those functions within you conscious if you want to, but it's not something that you would want to do and keep yourself busy. In other words, that's a useful way of that which is unconscious. And when we talk about conscious or unconscious, we like to talk about conscious or unconscious directing of your flashlight of attention. In other words, you are the light that is being pointed in a direction by you in this very specific physical iteration based off of where you want to point it, where your point of interest is. And so instead of thinking about making everything conscious and therefore say making everything to be a thing of momentarily choice at all times, it's way more balanced than that. You make a free will choice and then you forget about it for a moment. Then you make a free will choice and then that plays out. Then you make a free will choice and that plays out. And so your tendencies are that if you were not to have the conscious decision of moving your flashlight of attention, your tendencies would play out. And this is what so many of friends are seeing as something I cannot control anything because everything is predetermined. Why even bother? I'm just going to let all these tendencies to come and play out. And we say they're just tendencies. But also, not all of the tendencies are bad tendencies, as we just described on the example of your physical body. And so it's really about making the preference about which of the tendencies. When I look here, I don't like it. And I'm going to now shift little by little to look elsewhere. But here I do like it. And I would actually want it to stay there. And we say sometimes even want to change one automated look, meaning you want sometimes to change one tendency with another tendency. You say, I don't want to be so negative, I want to be positive. And we say that feeling of presence is not automated, but it operates within the tendencies that feel to you that are so automated. And you would not have it any other way because they're doing you the biggest favor. And so it just becomes a fun pick and choose games where sometimes you forget and then remember and forget and then remember that your free will is at your disposal at all times. But if you were to want to have that free will 100% of the time, you'd stay in non-physical. And so everything at all times is in your power. And if you're just to observe your attention as your prime operating tool, meaning to have that to be as conscious as you get it, then you will realize that any tendencies that are not serving you anymore can dissipate literally within the physical equivalent of moments in time.
Do you have any message that you'd like people to receive who are watching this video?
We are always coming from the perspective of asking of the question. In other words, you are the one holding the reins of your creation at all times. And so without you, nothing is happening. There is no motion forward without you. We want to bring your awareness back that you are the main driver of your vehicle. And it's so beneficial to the wider perspective that your wider perspective is not a glorified, better version of you, nor that you are anything less important than your wider perspective. It's a wonderful, balanced dance. Everyone and everything that you're observing right now is in a perfect position of balance. Creation always is in a perfect position of balance. And it's just what part of that balance are you in the right moment at the right time? In other words, in the moment at specific particular moment in time. That is your choice. There is nothing ever wrong going on, and you have at all times opportunity to choose on which side of the balancing scale you're wanting to be. There is a wonderful collaboration that you sometimes forget that you did not leave anyone behind. And that's why you have all of that support. Want to bring to your awareness your pioneering experience that you have, because where you are pointing has never been before. And as a result of that, a wonderful expansion to the benefit of all is happening.
Thank you very much for that. I don't have anything else that we could finish up with Armand and Kosta again.
In appreciation of your wonderful questions for now. That's it. Armand has his always face.
That was great. There was I guess because I've seen so much of Esther Hicks channeling, there's that flavor of Abraham there, but still very unique to you. So yeah, a great privilege for me to be part of this conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I just came out of the workshop, so some things were maybe rubbing off of that. I was in their vibes literally yesterday. The whole day was an awesome workshop.
So, Armand and Kosta, people are going to want to ask you questions. What's the best way for them to reach you? And can you just give us a summary of what you have going on as far as your programs and other things that people want to get involved with what you do?
So the best way, we have our website, Armand Kosta. So it's spelled Arm and Kosta with K.com. You can send us an email as well on that website, which is connect@armandkosta.com. Our Instagram, Armand Kosta, is you can send us a direct message or follow us there.
Our YouTube,
Armand Kosta as well. So we have the branding master over here that has done the wonderful work there. So those are the ways to do it. Our book is out on Amazon, so you can have access to it. It's called We All Are One, the essence of everything that exists. The book that came out, when did it come out? Officially last year. So it's on Amazon, and our publisher also can ship it anywhere in the world. And we have our little retreat, intimate retreat that is coming up now in a few weeks here in Miami, May 17th to 19th. So if somebody in US is watching this and you guys are interested to join, there's few spots available.
Yeah.
If you want to have a last minute boost of energy and enjoy this wonderful flow. And we're going to be having more things comes fall, including our online offerings, as we're new parents and we're now kind of slowly getting back to the groove of making our online offerings, as well as one-on-one work. Both of us are very happy to mentor people. It's our highest excitement to do that. So we everything that we're iterating, not only from WEOLA, but from our own living, we love to share. And so for anyone looking to To if this resonates and you feel like you would benefit from this, reach out. It's our highest excitement to do that.
And just say hi.
Yeah.
We're very friendly. So
Yes.
say hello.
Well, Armand and Kosta, it's been my great pleasure to have you as guests on my show today.
Thank you
you
so
much for including us. And
we almost have that fully together. Yeah, thank you so much.
you.
And to everybody, thank you for watching till the end.
Yeah, thank you.